back. WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. The Orioles are in Sarasota. Luke and I are monitoring all that the Orioles will allow us to see on the Mr. Angelos and Sons Network, as well as in Indianapolis, in the friendly heart of the Midwest, where there is a basketball tournament going on, the Big Ten Women's Tournament being held in downtown Indianapolis this week, as Luke and I are doing the Underwear Olympics on the NFL side. This guy will be monitoring all things in New York, as well as here locally, as UMBC has a big game at 1 o'clock on Saturday. It is, I don't know, March Madness, Robert Canady, but I was going to say March Sadness, because it certainly looks like we're not going to have a whole lot of representation come next Sunday when the brackets come out. I guess 2 weeks from now we'll be in the heart of March Madness. Will any of these teams wind up making it into the tournament? Big doings, and UMBC may be the best shot here this weekend, right, Robert?
Yeah, Nestor, exactly. It's not going to be a banner year for sure for the area teams, and UMBC probably has the best shot, although they have the giant Vermont to get past in the American East tournament, which we'll touch on. And but unless Towson can rewrite themselves and revert to the 10-1 Towson as opposed to the 8-10 Towson that's happened the last 2 months, it's certainly going to be a long shot for any of the local teams to make the big dance. But hey, crazy things happen in March, and that's why we all tune in every year and watch it, and love it. And love seeing it all unfold.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's start with the Terps, because this could be an early exit for them. It could be a short week for them up in New York as well. Wisconsin, they're going to play this noon game on Thursday. Just some thoughts about, look, I can't beat up Turgeon because he hasn't had his players. Obviously, this Diamond Stone thing, and you and I go back far enough that we talked about Diamond Stone together in the midst of that little 4-month run where he came down from Wisconsin, and people are like, what the hell is he doing playing at Maryland? Well, $14,000 later and FBI taps. This is the beginning of a lot of a mess for a lot of coaches, and there's a lot of splaining to do, as Ricky Ricardo would say, and it really fell on the Turgeon's desk the last couple of days, and they looked horrific against Michigan on Saturday.
Yeah, I was following that from afar. I was at the Loyola game. I'm sorry, not the Loyola, UMBC game, and I was watching the ticker on the Maryland game in Michigan, and it got out of hand quickly, and heard about the booing of the team leaving the court at halftime, and I mean that just shows you kind of the disgruntlement of the fans there. With the high expectations there were this year, and then like you said, I think some of that obviously was the Diamond Stone fallout. Even though Turgeon I think went out of his way to make it clear that no one, neither he or no one on the staff had any dealings with that agent, which I take him for his word at that. I mean there was a lot of questionable things about Diamond Stone from the beginning, the way he handled his whole Wisconsin recruitment and leaving there, and being here, just from talking to the people that were close to the program, he was never fully engaged in the program there and the university. I mean heck, I don't know, he probably attended class once or twice or something, just enough to stay eligible, till the second semester, or started, didn't even attend much after the second semester. So,
but this isn't, just Maryland, right? I mean, this goes on at University X and Y and Z throughout the country, and we've all sort of shrugged our shoulders for 30 years, right? Kind of, sort of.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely does. Especially, the bigger you get, the harder they'll fall, as you say. It's probably more prominent at the schools with more money. That's kind of one of the neat things, about following the mid majors and everything, and the low majors, such as I do, the Towsons and UMBCs and everything. And I'm not saying that they're 100% clean, but certainly, they don't have the funds or the connections, that the big schools have to, to be doing stuff like this, or, the type of players they're going after aren't the same level. So you'd like to think it's, definitely a little cleaner at that level. But yeah, as far as when you get in the power conferences and the top 50 or so of those teams, I mean, it wouldn't be a shock to see any name, come up that has something going on, and the names that have been bandied about since last Friday with the report that had come out, are the blue bloods of college basketball. So it's going to be interesting to watch this unfold. The timing of it, right before the tournament. I mean, we already saw Sean Miller didn't coach the other night for Arizona. Kind of stepped back as so he wouldn't be a distraction, so to say. So yeah, it's a lot to still come down the pike there, and it'll be interesting to see how it all unfolds.
He is Robert Canady. He is Buckets and Birds out on Twitter, and of course down at Compass Point, where they're teeing it up. Anytime the weather gets good, it's the best place to play this fall. Winter, summer, spring events, friendly folks, beer, green things going on next month, and you can learn more at compasspointgolf.com. You and I are going to be talking golf here pretty soon, right? I mean, Masters is right around the corner, for crying out loud.
It is. You see, if you watched any of the CBS games over the weekend, you saw the promos with Jim Nance and the soft Augusta music, playing in the background.
I hear the birds in the background right now, and the creek and the water running. Yeah, I hear it all. I do.
Yeah, it'll be here before we know it. That's the great thing. I think usually the final, the Monday night championship game NCAA is the Monday of Augusta week, so it literally blends perfectly from one to the next. So it'll be here before we know it, and we'll definitely be talking, give you some of my Masters picks and favorites as we get closer to that time.
Well, I'm looking forward to that, and I would say this, I'm looking forward to UMBC this weekend. I mean, of all this mess and where Maryland goes and plays Wisconsin, and they're going to do that on Thursday, and the Big Ten, and whether they can win a game or two or three, time will tell, but I don't think anyone expects Maryland to be playing in March Madness. UMBC, and I know Navy, we'll talk about Navy in a minute, but let's talk about UMBC. Won a lot of games, lost a game last week, and then won again on Saturday going away. Make a case for them, and I guess the case would be to talk about Vermont and how poorly that they matched up against Vermont this year in both of the games. I mean, they were trounced twice, but if they're going to get anywhere, they're going to see Vermont. They might see them second, third game through the tournament.
Yeah, it would be in the finals. If they a key thing actually, they still have one game left to play Tuesday night against Hartford, which is going to determine whether they're a 2 or 3 seed. So it's kind of interesting. That game definitely means a lot, and not so much against Vermont, because the American East, the way they do things is they play the campus sites at the higher seed. So as we know, UMBC is going to host a game against it'll either be UMass Lowell or New Hampshire this Saturday, depending whether they fall into 2 or the 3 seed. And then if, let's say, they get the number 2 seed and, they play Lowell, then Hartford will be in the 3 and play New Hampshire. And then UMBC, again, if everything, goes to chalk, they'll play Hartford again in the semifinals.
This is where it gets exciting, because it isn't let's all get on a bus and go to Richmond and figure it out over 3 days. It's literally getting home games, and if Vermont gets knocked off, right, by somebody, I don't know, Albany, Stony Brook, whoever it would be, right? If they get knocked off, then UMBC winds up hosting a championship game like we had here, 10, 11 years ago that was so exciting, back during the Jay Green era, as I remember it. But this is, UMBC's got the best shot. They've got this beautiful building. They have room for you over there and a real good experience. This is going to be neat. Saturday's going to be wild, because we got this outdoor night hockey game that I've committed to do with Ed, and I don't really like outdoor hockey, and I'm going to go on a bender about that this week. But I love indoor basketball, and I love the new little gym over at UMBC. This is a great event on Saturday afternoon for locals to go out to UMBC, support the Dogs, I think.
Oh, absolutely. We saw what the environment was like in that building, with it being full when they had the opener against Vermont a couple of weeks ago. And unfortunately for them, the result didn't, it turned out as it has for the most part when Vermont plays anyone this year. They got beat fairly badly. But, they had a really good win against UMass Lowell on this past Saturday. Was a really good win. They got down a little bit in the second half, but they relied upon their seniors, Jarris Lyles and KJ Mora, who I know you're a big fan of his, and they led the comeback, and that's what you hope that your seniors will do. And talking to Ryan Odom afterwards, and KJ and Jordan Grant, who the other senior on that team, who set a record for most games ever played by UMBC player. He passed Jay Green, I believe, in that one. So they're ready to make a run.
I got to get my UMBC record book out, man. You got this stuff, on the tip of your tongue. I got to get up with Steve Levy, get Levy on the program this week and paint the record books here because, if we're going to brag on a program and talk about a program, that's probably all we're going to have here for a week or two until they lose or advance, right? And they certainly are equipped to play a couple of games here at home and make it interesting over the next week and a half.
Yeah, absolutely, and they're looking forward to it. The American East representatives were there on Saturday, kind of getting the lay of the land and how things are going to be laid out. They were promoting it obviously within the arena and the PA system, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of stuff publicized this weekend. It's like I said, it's the best shot for this area for certainly to host the game, but to advance on at least to the finals. They beat Hartford on Tuesday night. They'll, have 2 home games, and if everything goes well, be playing in that championship on ESPN2 on Saturday, March 10th, and take their chances with that. So yeah, it's an exciting time there. It's 2 20-win seasons in a row. It's the first time they've ever done that in program history, and talking to Ryan afterwards on Saturday, you could just tell he was very pleased with it, but he was, I think, so happy for someone like Jordan Grant, who's been there for 4 years, and Jarris Lyles, who could have left this year and gone to a high major and played as a graduate player, but he decided to come back and finish his legacy at UMBC, and it's just, I think, all laid out perfectly for them to maybe be this year's Cinderella story of the area. So, what
about the Naval Academy down there in Annapolis? I know that's another story here where there is some hope. I know you've attended a couple of games down there. I haven't been down there in years and years. I won't say since David Robinson, but maybe since David Robinson. For me in the old crib down there many moons ago. Some thoughts about the Naval program?
Yeah, Navy's had a good year, and they've locked up hosting a first-round game, which they'll be doing Thursday night against Holy Cross in the quarterfinals of the Patriot League. So, again, with that and UMBC, and then Loyola is actually hosting one as an 8 seed. So there's a lot of action, tournament action being played here at the sites in the area. But yeah, Navy's had a really good year. They knocked off Pitt earlier in the year. They've gone on a little bit of a winning streak here at the end of the season and everything. They had a loss to Bucknell earlier in the month, but prior to that, they had won 4 in a row, and then they bounced back, beating Loyola over the weekend. So they're going to go into it on a good roll, and they're kind of at this level. We talk about seniors and guard play, and that's what Navy has. They've got a couple good seniors, led by Sean Anderson, and who's potential Patriot League Player of the Year, and so he'll be looking to finish his career and everything there, and that's a neat building when it gets full as well. So that'll be a good environment on Thursday.
He is Robert Canady. He is Buckets and Birds out on Twitter. He's out on the hardwoods and skating from local gym to local gym. And, of course, we've been the voice for Coppin State sports and the Eagles who have struggled this year under Juan Dixon. I'm not saying anything you don't know if you followed any of the results and any of the games as we played out the string here. And then Morgan had a disciplinary issue, right? There was a brawl in the Morgan game the other day. And so MEAC handing out all sorts of suspensions and issues there, so there's certainly not a good look going on over there at that point. And then there's just wherever Maryland is, right? And I guess we can close this portion of our college basketball programming by saying, this is going to end quickly. Do you expect NIT for them? I mean, do you expect them to play a couple of more games, Robert?
That's a good question. I think a lot of it depends upon how they do. If they go 1 and out in the tournament, they could be borderline. The thing about the NIT, they like the big names as opposed to the teams that maybe have had the better season. So you're still a lot of times going to see a team that finished below 500 in a power conference, which Maryland will, versus a team that has done well. And say let's use UMBC for example. Say they lose to Vermont in the finals, and have a 22-win season. You would think in past years maybe that's good enough to get an NIT look the way that they played with not losing really a bad game. But it's all about TV ratings and attendance and everything. So the NIT tends to go for the big name schools, regardless of how they performed, in the conference, as long as it's, halfway respectable. So I think they would definitely have a shot there. Obviously, I know they're looking at Wisconsin and, thinking let's win win that first game, and then I think they would be lucky enough to draw Michigan State again. Who's definitely been the class of that conference this year and is just loaded with NBA talent. So it's not looking to be a long run in the Big Ten tournament for them, but it's been a season of high expectations that turned to disappointment. Pretty quickly here for Maryland.
Oh, what the hell? You check the weather in New York, go see a show or something. Go see Springsteen or, the Jimmy Buffett show or something up there if you get taken out. At least you're in New York City, right? I mean, that's the good
there's
news.
A lot to do. New York City. I think Frozen just started running on Broadway. So, there you go. You could see your winter show with a little Olaf thrown in. So.
Well, yeah, let's see here. Let's see. Rain and windy, 45 and 48 this weekend. Maybe not the greatest weekend in New York, and certainly if you're a Terps fan, but I don't think they're going to be having a Big Ten tournament in New York again. I don't know that they'll bump this thing up, and I know the Big Ten's adding all of those extra games in conference next year as well. So things are going to change for Maryland, for their scheduling, for seeing more than Nebraskas and more of the Iowas than maybe we've been accustomed to seeing the last couple of years, right?
Yeah, it's definitely when they came in, it was definitely that. As we've talked about often for football schedule, they've definitely got thrown in the stronger of the two divisions for football. And, basketball's remained a little bit different because you play more games, so it's been a little bit more balanced seeing everyone. But, the Big Ten is doing some shuffling, and we'll see how it all, pans out. And I believe the tournament goes back to Indianapolis next year, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a week or so since I've looked at that, but they had it here in D.C. area last year, in New York. That was bringing in Maryland and Rutgers. I think it was done as part of that deal. The play to tournament near the home for both of them, and it'll go back to Indianapolis at least one more year, and then down the road beyond that. So it's still interesting to see next year how they come back too. Every year there's talk about who's going to come back or not. I guess the off-season talk with them will be what happens with Justin Jackson. Does he decide to come back? And then there's been talk about Bruno Fernando as well as he's played the last 2 weeks. There's been rumblings that he may leave.
Yeah, a couple good games for him in New York this week could help him a lot personally.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
So that'll be an off-season story to watch as well. So definitely turbulent times there for Turgeon, and like I said, I'm sure everyone's ready to kind of put this season behind them and move on. So.
Rob, always good to check in with you, man. Tell me something good down at Compass Point. I know you got green beer and links and all that good stuff happening down there in Pasadena.
Yeah, the Irish Open on March 10th. We actually are playing it a week earlier than actual St. Patrick's Day due to some scheduling we had going on here. So it
also doesn't conflict with basketball. You get those crappy tournaments instead of the real tournament the week before.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go.
So that and that would free me up to go to the UMBC final if they actually end up hosting the game, which would be cool. So that's on March 10th. Registration's on our website for it. And then also we just we talked about Masters being around the corner, so that means we run several leagues here during the week. Men's leagues, ladies leagues, co-ed league. And those are all on our website as far as registration go. They're very popular. They kind of run all year long from April until October. So registration for those is on the website as well. So if anyone's interested in getting involved in one of those, all the information's there how to do that as well. So.
My dude, Robert Canady, can be found out at Buckets and Birds on Twitter. That means the Buckets for the basketball and, of course, the Birdies coming very, very soon. We'll be talking some golf throughout the spring and promoting all that they're doing down at Compass Point Golf as well. Rob, we'll see you on the hardwoods. I'll see you Saturday down at UMBC, pal.
Sounds good, Nestor. We'll see you then.
You got it. I will be at the Combine in Indianapolis all week long with Luke Jones. We're going to have a lot of celebrities and guests and reporters and draft pundits and fun and prospects and beer and probably cocktail sauce that's going to make us cry. And we're going to do all those things that we do in Indianapolis and running wild this week, as well as we got hockey on Saturday night. I got basketball on Saturday afternoon. The Orioles are in Sarasota. And we're out in the bay at Toyota.com, audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world. Download, listen when you want, where you want, how you want, to what you want. It's the way we do it. It is the buy at Toyota.com, audio vault. All of our Combine coverage brought to you by our friends at Howard Bank. It's a relentless commitment to be the best at everything they do. Branches throughout Baltimore and Maryland. The unique hands-on approach to banking. Big thanks to Howard Bank for sponsoring our sojourn to the friendly heart of the Midwest. West. Also, Royal Farms, they don't have that out in Indiana. Real fresh, real fast. Make sure you're downloading that app, that Rofo app, and you're using that when you're pumping your gas, buying your chicken. You're going to get prizes, rewards, all sorts of deals and discounts on that app as well. Just download it. It's real fresh. It's real fast. It's Royal Farms. And I definitely need to get some Western fries in me before I get out of here for combine activities. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. If there's any breaking news this week, you're going to get it first on the WNST Tech Service. That is all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis Kolatzis will be here from 3 until 5. He is skipping the combine. He's boycotting the combine until they move it to Los Angeles. We've had that conversation, so we'll be checking in with him on Thursday afternoon with a little combine update for Dennis as well. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.